Okay, well, welcome. This is the September monthly meeting of the Dallas County Master Gardener Association members. And we would like to introduce our guest speaker. His name is Jaime Gonzalez. And Jaime earned his bachelor's degree in biology and master's in education from the University of Houston. The focus of his master's degree was in curriculum and science education instruction. Jaime is currently employed as the Community and Equitable Conservation Director at the Nature Conservancy in Texas. He is an interdisciplinary conservationist, an environmental educator, and a network weaver. Jaime works to better ensure that the practice and benefits of conservation are more equitable and inclusive in Greater Houston and Texas. Jaime has won numerous awards for his work, including the Distinguished Alumni Award from the University of Houston's College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics, the Prairie Companion Award from the Coastal Prairie Conservancy, and the Elizabeth Hull Abernathy Award from the Garden Club of America for outstanding contributions to environmental education of youth. Jaime's presentation is titled Plants to the Rescue: How Native Plants Can Best Protect Us from Extreme Weather and Improve Our Health and Well-Being. So welcome, Jaime, and the ball is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me here today. I am going to present to you about some things that are happening around Houston, because that's where I've worked for the last 25 years. But I just switched into this role with the Texas chapter into community and equitable conservation, which basically means that I'm working on a statewide portfolio to see how we can be of even greater service to Texas and to Texans, and how we can better connect with communities and make sure that kind of the benefits of what we do reach more folks. So I'm going to talk to you about plants today. I'm not talking about domesticated plants. You know all about those. I will say that my yard is a mixture of different sorts of ecology. I have lots of native plants, but I have a lot of cultural plants and a lot of introduced plants that are great for pollinators and things like that. So although I'm talking about indigenous species, I'm not throwing other species under the bus, because we need a mixture of cultural species and all kinds of stuff. So in fact, I have a mimosa tree in my backyard, which is like, if that went away, I'd be very sad. So we're going to talk to you about what's happening kind of out there. We'll talk a little bit about Dallas. I'm just getting to know more about Dallas now because of my statewide role. Obviously, it's a very interesting place, ecologically, culturally, all that stuff. There have been some really cool things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. Really, I mean, literally in the last couple of weeks, that are really encouraging signs up there. And I'm going to talk about some things that we're doing here in Houston that I think have applicability in our big cities and even at home. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this. If you have any questions, I will be putting my contact information in the chat, so you can always feel free to reach out to me with questions. And what I'll do is I'll kind of stop in between to ask if you have any questions. So hopefully I won't just talk straight through this. All right, real quickly. Let's get to who we are real quick. This photo is a photo of a native prairie that we have here close to Houston. It's called the Nash Prairie Preserve. It's one of my favorite places on earth. It's about 400 acres, which is rare for prairies. As you know, many prairies have gone away. Only about 1% is left in this kind of spectacular kind of condition. And one of the things that we'll talk about real quickly is how we can use resources from these wild places to put into cities and suburbs so that they can be safer, more healthy, more wondrous, and all of that stuff. Are you not seeing pictures? You're not. Okay, let me reshare. Let me try to reshare. Sorry about that. Yeah, okay, here we go. Okay, now are you seeing pictures?
Yes.
Okay, all right, great. So now, can you see this beautiful picture here?
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Okay, a lot better than blank screen, I'm sure. So anyway, what we're talking about is Nature Conservancy in Texas has historically saved some of the most scenic and high value places for wildlife and other biodiversity. This is the Nash Prairie Preserve. It'll figure into the talk today. This is a very rare example of a coastal prairie. Your prairies up there are very rare as well in terms of being intact. And this is a place that we have used seeds and techniques to rewild parts of the city for it to be more climate ready, more wild, more wondrous, and all that stuff. And in Texas, we're coming up on a big milestone. We've helped to protect lots of places in Texas that are now in the public domain, public hands, that can be visited oftentimes for various reasons. And so we're coming up on a big milestone. It's 1 million acres conserved. So every 54 acres of protected lands in Texas, we've had a hand in, which we're very proud of. But more and more, we're also looking at how do all of these ecosystems fit together? How do the wild places fit together with the urbanized places, with the suburban places? Because really, it's a combinational world. It's not that there are just wild places over here and there are other places. It's all connected because we're all in a connected landscape. So it's going to tell you just quickly about a couple of things. One is, here's Dallas. Now, this is a different view of Dallas than we typically look at. These are prehistoric and historic territories of different indigenous people that lived in the Dallas area. And I'm not going to pretend to know much about these wonderful folks. I know a lot more about folks in our tribes in Texas or in Houston. But it goes to this fact. There have been people managing the land in one way or another for over 13,000 years in Texas. And we are the latest people to be trying to steward land for various reasons. And so it's important to recognize these people just because they need to be recognized, but also to recognize that we are part of a chain of stewardship, right, that goes way back. In the Dallas area, we have a number of projects and processes, but one of the most famous properties for prairies is in the state is called Clymer Meadow Preserve. And that is a little bit northeast of Dallas, about, I think, an hour and 15 minutes away. And it is also being used now for a seed source to do restorations. On Saturday, we just did a really cool restoration project in Judge Charles Rose Community Park. And that's really a partnership between Trust for Public Land and City of Dallas and TNC community partners. The list goes on because these are all partner projects. But the main point here is that we are active in Dallas. We are active in that community. And that's a cool thing. From that perspective, Dallas is also very special in a number of ways. One is that it's right there in the middle of a very major monarch migratory pathway. And so anything that we do to the ecosystem, to our yards, to our parks, to our county facilities is going to impact that migration. And it's kind of a double thing because also on the Central Flyway for birds. So Dallas is this meeting place, right, for people and wildlife and transit ways. And so, what happens in Dallas doesn't matter for Dallas, right? It means something for the whole state, but it also means something for ecology throughout North America. So I think that that's a really important thing, that even if you're doing things in your yard, you can have a big impact. I love this map here. So I don't know if you know that there's a free app called iNaturalist. Some of you probably use the iNaturalist app. It's a great way to find out what's living around you, especially if you don't know what's living around you. You have it on your camera, take a picture, you ask iNaturalist to identify it. But when you do that, it also pins that observation on a map. And you can see here for Dallas County that there have been, 431,000 observations on iNaturalist, right? 7,200 species. That's pretty outstanding. And what that means is that what we can do as conservation biologists is we can now look at this map and find out where habitat might be able to go. But it also is a great way for you all to understand what's living around you. What plant species are around you? What's living in your yard, whether it's exotic or whether it's native. And so this is a great utility. And then I'm going to mention this, which I think was a couple of other things that are going on before I get into talking about what we're doing here in Houston. One is that Dallas, and I haven't checked to make sure that this happened. We're going to talk about heat quite a bit today. And on October 5th, Dallas is all set to do a heat island study with community scientists. Now you check and see if that happened. If it did, what's happening right now is that data is being modeled into a heat map for Dallas. The reason I know that is that we helped lead an effort here with the city and the county group called HARC to heat map Houston and Harris County back in 2020. And what I will tell you about what's going to happen with that heat map is that it's going to draw massive attention to where heat is building up and the nature that can be put in order to combat that, because that's exactly what happened in Houston. I imagine the same thing will happen in Dallas. But already underway is some really cool stuff. One is that just about a week and a half ago, this happened. The USDA put out grant requests to communities to apply for community forestry grants. And they're right there in South Dallas, got $15 million for revegetating Dallas to combat climate change and also just to make more nature equity. We also applied here in Houston, Harris County, and we got 15 million bucks too. So there's really great things happening at the same time. For those of you who care about education and love schools or have grandkids or whatever, at the same time, Texas A&M Forest Service, which is our statewide Forest Service, they got in excess of $20 million, separate from the $15 million. And much of that is going to be spent on schoolyards to bring up the canopy level and to bring more nature, particularly to areas that are getting hot, that don't have very much park space, that don't have access to much nature. So there's all kinds of great stuff happening up there in the DFW area. And if you have not seen this book, I have a copy of this book. Many of you probably have seen this or purchased this book. I can tell you that if you've not seen it, it is amazing. Amy Martin did a remarkable job of capturing the ecology and the history and the potential field trips and the wildlife of DFW. And I was just kind of blown away as I'm starting to learn more about your part of the world, about how rich and diverse and wonderful it really is. So great resource. And here's our folks this Saturday, and they were out there restoring a part of the earth. They were doing this in Judge Charles Rose. So that's some of my colleagues right there, Brandon Belcher in the blue shirt, Amy, Dr. Kathy Jack right next to him on the right, some of our friends from the Trust for Public Land. So this really exemplifies something that's really important. When we're using plants to make for a healthier world, a safer world, and a more exciting world, the only way we're going to get this done is by doing two things. One is thinking about community a little bit differently than what we've done, and also through partnerships. So all of the projects I'm going to talk to you about today are all partnership driven. But one of the things I want to mention before we get into the projects is this. We're typically used to seeing communities as this. When we say the word community, what immediately comes to mind for a lot of people are what are the humans, right, in this system. And we have an incredibly diverse community here in Houston. You do in Dallas as well. But in order to get to where we really need to go, this is what we need to think about as community. Because the truth is that all of the people and all of the wild things in this picture wholly depend on each other at this moment in time. If we don't have healthy ecosystems, healthy urban forests, healthy wetlands, healthy grasslands, the people that we love in this picture will not be protected. They will not be able to lean into all the health that nature provides. And the nature in this picture really need people, advocates, people on the ground, policymakers, fundraisers to help save them, because we are growing so fast. There are so many changes to their world, and many of these species have been in our area for 20, 30, 40,000 years, but they are declining. So this is really a community of interdependent humans and the rest of nature. And so if we think about it that way, we can do work differently. So I work in that way every day, which is to say that I use something called a One Health framework. So instead of just thinking about conservation from a wildlife and fish perspective, how do we save these or ecosystems, I work right in the middle there. I work with groups that are really, really working hard to protect people from poor air or soil or water or the impacts of climate change. I work with public health officials who are really working on health disparities that are built on having either unhealthy nature or a not enough nature. And of course, I work with folks in the conservation field as well. And so what I'm trying to do here in Houston, Harris County, and increasingly in Texas is let's get more sectors to work together. All right, well, let me show you a few examples of where we're headed. But before I do, any questions or anything before I get into kind of some examples of what we're doing with native plants? Nope. Okay. All right. So here's the big message, I think, for Texas cities in general, because I've obviously visited all of them, is the big deal is we have a lot of landscapes that require a lot of maintenance, a lot of money, produce a lot of pollution because we have to mow them, and make the ground harder so we can't absorb as much water. They also are pretty terrible habitat for wildlife. And lastly, if you look at that schoolyard, they're not exciting. And the average school kid today in Texas, and you're going to be kind of sad by this, gets out for less than 10 minutes of unstructured playtime outdoors every day. So they're not reaping all the benefits of being exposed to nature. And it's not just because they have screens now, it's because we have made, as adults, unfortunately, pretty boring landscapes. And they like movement, they like nature, they like butterflies. But when we make landscapes like this, as you can see, there's not a whole lot to look at, right? So how do we go from this to something better? And I'm going to show you some examples of just where we have done that. And we're using something called nature-based solutions. And basically, that is a pretty jargony term for what it means to use and embed nature in communities to make them healthier, spongier, cooler, and just more fun, like just more adventurous, right? Because we want kids to be excited about going outside because they're seeing all kinds of cool stuff. So just nature as a basic human right is super important. And we're working in lots of different places to do this. We have, in Houston, we've worked on green roofs. We've done stuff in residential yards. We're trying to get utility corridors. We've worked in urban parks. We've worked in a lot of different places because this is where people live their lives every day. This is where they play, where they work, where they worship, where they do their daily lives. And so if we're going to have an impact on people, these are where we're going to do that. So let me just show you a couple of examples. One of which is schoolyards. So schoolyards, as you know, oftentimes are giant areas that are mowed a lot and they're not real super exciting. So what we've done is instead of thinking about schoolyards as just wastelands, just places that we have to do it, what we've done is we've created a model here called the Jefferson Early Learning Center. It's a preschool that is attended by over 400 kids in a park desert neighborhood. But instead of like tearing all the land up, putting the building on, and then just putting a bunch of soil and lawn, what we're doing is we're creating about 4.5 acres of prairies and wetlands, and we're adding about 200 trees. So in effect, what we're doing here is we're creating a little bit of a national park, a postage stamp national park. This is what it looked like this spring. So in addition to restoring all this land using seeds from our preserves, we have provided the teachers with training and curriculum and all sorts of things. And right now, this is really exciting. We're about to start an analysis of what are the benefits of doing it this way versus a traditional way. You know, what's the economic costs and benefits? What are the social costs and benefits? And what are the environmental costs and benefits? And what we think is going to happen from the early numbers is there's going to be a huge amount of benefit because these prairie areas get mowed one time a year versus the mowed areas which get mowed 16 to 18 times a year. So that's real costs. It's real emissions in terms of carbon and air pollution. These prairie areas are going to absorb a lot more water than a lawn, and they're going to be significantly cooler. So in a city, we have measured temperature differences of pocket prairies, which is what these are, and adjacent lawns between 10 and 16 degrees difference in the summertime. So we're talking about basically making cooler surfaces as well as more beautiful surfaces. So another thing that's important is sense of place. So here's a picture of some cowboys down on Galveston Island back in the 1800s. Saltgrass prairies. So if you've ever seen like Saltgrass Steakhouse, well, that's why it's called this, because it's a great place to roam. So as we build with native plants, what we also do is we build a sense of place. I love all of our exotic species. They're from all over the world, but they're not referential to this place, right? So one of the things about all these native plants is that you can use them to teach Texas history and culture and all that fun stuff that makes a place understandable, right? And so with these projects, we very much do that. We just had an article in the Houston Chronicle about how we're using this landscape, this preschool, differently than a regular preschool, right? And it became very kind of like a point of conversation, because basically is the fact is we just need to use public space a lot more smartly. We can save money as taxpayers. We can make them more ready for increased heat and water, and we can make them more kind of place-based as well. All right, so what we can do is, one thing we can do is we can transform schoolyards into parks and into parks that function very, very well. Another thing we can do is we can create greener neighborhoods. And this is one of the things that I'm just absolutely excited about. So we worked for several years, and we're still working on this project, with an incredibly diverse community of beautiful, wonderful people, strong community leaders in a place called Gulfton. Now, Gulfton is Houston's most diverse neighborhood. There are about 80 different languages spoken in this neighborhood. People come from all over the world. It's our Ellis Island. Lovely people, very welcoming and all that. And I actually lived in this neighborhood when I went to college, so I was putting myself through U of H. So it's very exciting to come back and work here. And as much as people love nature, here's a little article that we worked with folks in the Houston Chronicle about how people love patio gardens, because most of this neighborhood has lots and lots of apartment complexes. They love nature. They want nature. This is what we found when we were doing the planning. The truth is this neighborhood is what is called a nature-deprived neighborhood, which means that it doesn't have enough nature to really meet the needs of the public. So here's a nature score for this neighborhood, 27.3. This is out of 100. So you can see that people need more nature here for their mental and physical, and for some people, cultural and spiritual well-being. But they also really need it because when we did that heat mapping, this was the hottest neighborhood in the city because it has so much concrete and it has so few trees relative to other communities. This neighborhood was 17 degrees hotter on that August day that we measured than the coolest neighborhood in the city. So what happens in this neighborhood is that people sometimes literally have heat strokes or heat injuries waiting for the bus. So this is not just a unpleasant thing. It's a very dangerous thing for this neighborhood to be under-natured. So what we're doing is we're working with the community, Harris County Precinct 4, and other people to come up with nature interventions. And so when we did the Greener Gulfton plan, we did it in a way that was a One Health plan, which is to say, all the interventions that we're putting in, all the nature, will have benefit for both the people and the wildlife of this neighborhood. And that's important because the wildlife, the living soils, the plants will help to take care of the people. And if people steward this right, they can start to have real great impacts on the wildlife. And also, people told us in this neighborhood that even though there are many scenes like this in the neighborhood, just blank of nature, right? That the absence of nature was not the proof that they didn't care about it. It just meant that they didn't have enough money to put it in, but they love nature. Many of them came from rural backgrounds. I will say something else about situations like this. Places that are all hard and concrete, absent of nature, have been proven to be extremely damaging to mental health. It's not neutral. It actually damages your mental health in several ways. One is exposure to nature reduces feelings of loneliness. Another fact is exposure to hard surfaces like this, hard places, reduces your academic achievement, your feelings of self-worth, your feelings of self-efficacy. So this is not and it increases your stress by a lot. In fact, it's been shown to increase your chance of getting a mental illness by 3 times, just because of what's around you or not. So this is unhealthy. This is unhealthy human habitat. So what can we do in a place like this with plants? Well, one of the things that we're doing is we are thinking about, where do people live their lives? So we are going to be putting in trees with Texas A&M Forest Service and Trees for Houston starting this fall. We got a big grant for that, which is great. But there are some places where there's just not enough room for trees. Well, we can't just say like these places are just they can't plant trees, so nothing happens. So we've been coming up with concepts with a group called Ultra Barrio for modular shade structures, which incorporate native plants to soften the landscape and to encourage pollinators. We've been also looking at bus stops. Bus stops don't have to be just hard structures. In places in Europe, in certain other places in the US, folks are trying green bus stops with green roofs, right? And so we're actually going to be, we believe, because the county has been very responsive and they went out and found some money from the federal government. We're going to be piloting this new type of bus stop in the next 1.5 years. And it's going to use prairie ecologies, which are native to that neighborhood. So it's also placemaking. And these prairie ecologies are also going to help support butterflies and hummingbirds and all kinds of things, so that the people are cooler, the habitat is improved, and people are looking at nature and not hard stuff, which damages their mental health. Well, what else can we do? Well, one thing we can do is we can, like I said, we can plant trees. So we went out and we mapped with our partners, where can we plant trees? And so we actually went out with these guys right here. This is Matt Weaver and Mickey Merritt, who both, well, Mickey just retired, but Matt's still at Texas A&M Forest Service. And we literally mapped, like, where can these trees go? And what we found was there was room for about 804 trees just in the public right-of-way. So now the fun begins, because just last week we created a plant palette for the neighborhood. So if the world's going to get hotter, if it's going to be harder to water all these trees, and we saw that this summer, the price of water is skyrocketing for watering trees. And if we want to build wildlife habitat as we build better human habitat, what's the selection of trees? Well, we picked a list. We're going to go with that list. But now some of my colleagues in forestry, we're actually going to be using artificial intelligence to help us decide what is going to be viable 30 to 40 years down the road. So there's a lot of things happening. We're using technology a lot to get to these natural solutions. All right, let me get to one more thing here, and then I'll open it up for questions. What do you do at home? So as we can see, like, we need to have solutions that are great for people, that are great for wildlife, great for the planet, but we also need to feel it at home. So what are some suggestions for what could happen there? And I've worked on this a long time in various capacities that I've had in my career. One thing that we know is that if you look at these pictures right here, so here's a typical lawn, and this is the thermal image of that lawn. So you can see there's a lot of yellow spots. Those yellow spots are hotter. The purple spots are cooler. And the reason the houses look so purple is because they're in shade at that time of the day. But you can see how hot that roof is. It's blazing hot, right? Well, I measured the surface temperature of that lawn that's in the thermal image where my cursor is. And that temperature on that day was about 97 degrees on the lawn. Lawns are actually much hotter than people think they are, because they're sitting on compacted soil, because we mow it a lot, and it's just hard, right? If you take a look at this alternate landscape full of both native and introduced species, it's just like loaded with butterflies and everything, but look how purple it is, right? So the temperature of that yard, while the temperature, and I took this on the same day, about 10 minutes apart, the temperature of the lawn was like 97 degrees. The temperature inside this very nature-rich lawn was about 86 degrees. So you're talking about 11-degree difference just because of what you planted. And you're also talking about reducing mowing, which reduces air pollution and carbon. You're also talking about sinking roots deeper. So you're talking about capturing more water for you and your neighbors. And so I think part of what you can do at home is to think about, and what I'm working with folks around here to think about is in our public parks, school grounds, and other pieces of public land, even gas easements and power easements, what is the amount of lawn we actually need at this point in our life, right? Do we need to mow miles of the earth to get to what we need? Or do we need to like think about lawns are very special and they get used for things, but what can we do instead on these big tracts of land where we don't need to mow everything under creation, right? So one of the things that we've worked with other groups is a concept called 9 natives, because it can be pretty intimidating to start thinking about, well, what native plants do I plant? So what we did is we actually have created 2 plant palettes for Houston, one for shady conditions, one for sunny conditions. And the special thing about these natives is they work well together. They're paired like wine and cheese so that you can put them in a planting and they have a long bloom cycle. They feed a lot of things together. They look really good together structurally, right? So what we're doing is we're not just saying like plant a bunch of species and you don't, who knows how they work together, or giving you a giant list of plants and you don't know what to pick. We're saying, just try these together, see how that goes. And our friends and where I used to work, called the Coastal Prairie Conservancy, have even planted a 9 natives garden at our Museum of Science to kind of get the word out. And I'll put the link in the chat, but it's just 9. If you just Google 9 natives, there will be a website that pops up with video content and planting and all that. You can also think about your lawn as a temporary surface. This is my yard in Houston. I don't have a kind of an HOA that's going to tell me not to do everything, but I do have a civic association and I do have neighbors that need to be brought into an understanding of what's going on. What I do here is I plant this in this, I put the seeds in fall. This is called the Hatton Spring Prairie. I let it grow up. I mow the border so it looks very intentional, more like an English garden than just a bunch of wild plants. Let this grow up and it becomes a prairie for the spring. My neighbors come by, they take pictures with their kids, they take pictures with their dogs. And what it does is it provides both an opportunity to engage people about native plants, and it's also really great for pollinators. I'll be out here, sitting in the yard, and there will be just lots of different native bees and butterflies, and birds will come down to find the insects. And also it's great for building community. The thing that I talked about, the thing that really surprised me when I did this project at first was just how many people talked to me because I had this. You'll have kids walking down the streets like regular yard, regular yard, regular yard, regular yard, Texas wildflower landscape. And they go, what is that? And of course, we want the kids to kind of enjoy it. That's part of the reason why we did it. Also, what I'll say just real quickly is there's a book and then there's a resource that many of you already know about. There's an author named Douglas Ptolemy, who's a professor at the University of Delaware. He's become very famous for advocating for restoring your yards to something akin to a little postage stamp national park. And collectively, if we all do this, we can have a really big impact. So Bringing Nature Home is an excellent resource for you. And then lastly, you all know about the North Central chapter of Your Native Plant Society, which is a place where you can find lots and lots of resources too. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to stop sharing because I have lots and lots of pictures and things I can reference here in case you have a question that you needs to be answered. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to the coordinators and see if anybody has any questions or observations.
Hiya, this is Sue. Hi, Jaime. There's a couple of comments in the chat. One is somebody's experience is this. Hang on a sec, I'll just have a quick look. Yeah, Vivian Wagner says her mulch temperature in the front of the pollinator garden was 125 degrees on the surface, and the sidewalk was 145, and it was 107 that day. So yeah, that's quite.
Yeah, it's 145. Yeah, I've measured temperatures in Gulfton exceeding 138. And at that point, if you're a mom walking with your kids, and a lot of people don't own cars, and you need to go to the grocery store, you know, on those days when it's that hot, when we did the heat mapping, I had to run home at lunch to do a TV interview. This is during the midst of the pandemic. I sat down at my computer and I had to take my shoes off because I felt so much heat coming through my shoes into my feet that they were burning, literally. So yeah, as Texas continues to heat up and have these historic heat waves, we just have to think about how do we make cooler surfaces, whether that's on roofs, sidewalks, streets. There's even paints that people have developed to paint streets and sidewalks so it reflects more. So building cooler surfaces, whether it's biology or not, is going to be super important.
Yeah. When I first moved to Dallas, I was told only to walk my dogs at certain times of day, and I thought that was a bit of a joke. And then you go out and with your bare feet on the ground, and I realized it was real. Yeah,
you could burn paws. Yeah.
Carolyn Hitz makes a really good comment. You could add a little free library to your little prairie meadow outside your house, and that'll always get people stopping by too. Stephanie Smith.
Can I mention something there? How smart that comment is? That comment is so smart. I have a good friend whose name is Lauren Jansen Simpson. She is a professor at U of H in the law department, award-winning professor. She's awesome. But she's also become like a really well-known native plant expert and exporter of ideas. She does a really great planting in her yard, and she does exactly that. She uses the real estate holder, and she has plant lists and other information there. So I'm totally stealing that idea, Carolyn, and going with it this spring.
Brilliant. Stephanie Smith asked, what about Dallas regulations about mowing?
Great question. I don't know how it works. Let me tell you how it works in Houston, and then I'll tell you something that did happen years ago that is really important. One is in Houston, and you'll have to find out if this happens in Dallas, I don't know, is there was something through our Parks Department that was passed, a city ordinance called the Natural Areas Ordinance. And what that means is that you can actually apply to the city of Houston to get permission to grow things in a little bit more wild and taller way than a regular yard. And thereby, you can avoid getting tagged for being a neighborhood nuisance, right? Well, what I will say is, regardless if you have the natural area permit, or you're just doing it guerrilla style like I've done, nobody's ever complained because we have bluebonnets. I would say that you need to make it look intentional. So the edges need to be crisp, clean lawn and or flagstone or something like that. I don't use any flagstone, but it needs to look very tidy near the street and backed off the street like 3 or 4 feet at least. One other way to do it is to put it in garden beds, right? And you guys know this, you're master gardeners. So make it look very intentional. The other thing I'll say is there was a state bill that was passed and signed by Governor Prairie when he was in office that restricted to a certain degree homeowners associations from people planting water conserving plants. Now, this was done in aid of getting more native plants onto the landscape and giving some protections from HOAs. So we can send you information on that so that you have that in your hand. And one other thing I'll say about HOAs and restrictive covenants is this. A lot of them say that people can't plant weeds. Well, weeds is a very slippery and oftentimes undefined concept, right?
Yeah.
So what some folks in Houston have done successfully is they've gone back to their HOA and they say, from a legalistic standpoint, since you're using law here in terms of that covenant, we need you to define what a weed is. And we need you to give us a species list for weeds.
Right.
And once you do that, it's like the circuits break a little bit. Like, what do you mean? I know what a weed is. Like, well, do you? If you do, can you write it down for me and let me know what a weed is so I can be a better covenant holder? And a lot of them just quit. They're like, I can't answer this question. So I'm not saying that's always going to work, but it has worked here at certain times.
Well, we've got an HOA meeting in my neighborhood tomorrow, and I keep wondering about the best way to getting some wildflowers out there. So I'm going to take some of your tips. Thank you.
Yes.
Janet.
Well, I will add this too, just real quick.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we do these plantings, and I've helped put pocket prairies in the middle of Texas Medical Center, biggest medical center in the world, on school grounds, on universities, in places where people are just not used to seeing any of this stuff. And what I will say is you always come to the party with a number of stories because you don't know what's going to resonate. And sometimes people only have one story. They're like, this is good for pollinators. Well, I hate to say it, but it's just not going to work for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. But a lot of people who might be hesitant to that, if you say, we're bringing back a part of Texas and Texas cultural identity, which you are, you're not being false. They go, wait, that's my value. I like being a Texan. And so where we have not had success with biodiversity, we also couple it with these notions of Texas history and identity. And then people sometimes flip from like a critic to a champion. It's just like this amazing switch that gets thrown. So I think one thing to do if you're going to do that is to do a little bit of digging for historical images of Dallas when it was more wild and more prairie, so that people don't, because sometimes people will say like, what are you talking about? Dallas was a forest. And you have to remind them that, no, I mean, along the streams it was, but that was a prairie city. And so was Fort Worth.
So plants that your pioneer ancestors would have been familiar with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, like what I tell people is no prairies, no cowboys, no rodeo, no barbecue, no bluebonnets, all these things that no cowboys. Like the Dallas Cowboys would be called the Dallas Foresters or something. Because I'm telling you, because like that is a cultural reference to the prairie. And the Rangers, home on the range is the prairie. The Mavericks, that's a wild horse on the prairie. All of your icons are prairie references.
Janet Smith has made a comment. Thanks, Janet. Dallas has a chapter of the Native Plant Society. I think the one you mentioned, Jaime, was in the Fort Worth chapter. But...
I made a bad boo-boo there. Sorry.
Don't mix us up with Fort Worth.
No, I won't.
C.A. Hiscox, do you have any tips for establishing a pocket prairie?
What I would say is there's several, and I'll send you some resources on this.
Brilliant.
We've just made I'm going to go right over here and give you the link live. We have a regional environmental education website that I helped put together with lots of partners. And I just rebuilt the how to make a pocket prairie thing. So I'm going to go under gardening and I'm going to go to build a pocket prairie. So I am going to put this link right in the chat. There you go. And it goes kind of step by step about not just how to put it in place, but how to tell the story, how to assess whether it's working. It's got video content, all that jazz.
Brilliant. Great. Thank you. Barbara Anderson asked, hi Barbara, will there be a 9 native lists created for North Texas?
So great question.
Your Houston plants may not work here.
Yeah, so some of the plants that we have on the list will work. Some won't, definitely, right? Different, all kinds of differences, right? One is you guys have topography and we don't, but also the water and the soils and all that stuff. So I will ask, so the Native Prairies Association of Texas chapters up there took this idea of 9 natives and they were supposed to put together their own 9 natives list. And that's what we encouraged chapters, both the Native Plant Society and also Native Prairies Association chapters to do for their particular situations. So I will check on whether or not it was the Fort Worth chapter that was putting it together, but you just have to X out Fort Worth and just, insert Dallas there. So anyway, I think that they were coming up with one. I'm interested in seeing if they did it. So we'll see.
Yeah. And that leads on to Janet Smith's asked a question. What other areas of Texas have implemented the 9 Native program? She says the effort in Dallas Metroplex seems to have died.
Oh no. Well, that's too bad. I will find out what's going on, because I haven't checked on them lately.
Right. Da, da, da. Okay. Oh.
And I would say one other thing about 9 Natives.
Yeah.
One thing that you can plant up there that will work, that is a boon to wildlife. If you just want to get started, put in what's called Indian blanket or firewheel. If anybody has put that in itself blooms a long time. It also supports a whole bunch of stuff. And one thing I found out on this campus that I was talking about is we had a huge area of Indian blanket. What I didn't know is that hummingbirds use it. Did not know that. There was this huge patch and there were like 4 hummingbirds working the patch. It was the most brilliant thing ever. So even if you're just starting with 1 or 2, if you're doing it in your front yard though, use bluebonnets. It will make friends that you don't even know you have. And so in Houston, to just be dead honest, the state wildflower, that Lupinus texensis, which is the classic Texas bluebonnet, is not technically native to Harris County. It is 1 county over, and I don't care. I always use it because people get it.
People love
and
it.
it feeds bees, and they just go nuts. And also in my front yard, people have a misconception that you can't grow bluebonnets. You can, if you're a private landowner. But I don't tell them that.
Mark Jones is asking how to get public parks to implement these projects.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have some real champions there in terms of both state parks and public spaces. So I think reaching out to those folks. So I got a couple of folks. Some of you may know the urban wildlife biologist Sam Kieschnick with Texas Parks and Wildlife. Sam is an incredible naturalist and a powerhouse for advocating for wild spaces, and just incredible. And we compete every year during the City Nature Challenge, real hard, Houston and Dallas, and our DFW team. And but I have nothing but respect for Sam. He's just amazing. And the city parks department, man, I'm drawing a blank. There is a really great wildlife biologist there. Just drawing a blank. Anyway, I'm sure that some of you know. If you do, put it in the chat. He is very much an advocate for wild spaces. So sometimes, like here in Houston, it's just a matter of budget, right? But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's the residents of a neighborhood, particularly during the master planning process. And I'm doing this with a master plan now. And I also worked in some of the signature parks in Houston. Yes. They don't know it's an option. So when you go to the master planning process and you say you want more swing sets, you want more pool, you want a splash pad, and you list all the amenities, a lot of times pollinator garden, pocket prairie, other things are not listed. And so people think the list is the only things they can have. So if you have a wild space that's near you or a park, I would inquire, can we get something like this? They're doing this in parts of Dallas. They're also doing it in parts of Houston and other cities. We'd love to see something here. And it's amazing how much sometimes the Parks Department just doesn't know people want it there. Yeah. And when you contact them, sometimes they're like, oh, okay, well, that's great.
Cool. Lisa was asking if there's any citizen science projects that people in Dallas can get involved with, like your heat mapping.
Yeah, so I think the heat mapping already happened, like I said. But iNaturalist is a community science project. So if you download iNaturalist and you use it, every time you make an observation, you're contributing to scientific data about what's living around you. And so we can see how common are the common species. We can, there have been some species that we found in iNaturalist that we didn't even know occurred in the county. Also compete in the City Nature Challenge, help DFW with the City Nature Challenge happens in late April through early May. Go and observe as many things as you can. Learn your wild neighbors. And at the same time, like, you're helping Dallas or DFW compete against 400 global cities. And I will say that DFW did super well this year in terms of engaging the number of people. I think they were like in the top 5 globally. And we always compete with, you know, them, but they do really great stuff. I think if heat mapping has not been done, it's really interesting, because what happens is you have a special scientific instrument that the folks at NOAA give you. You attach it to your car, and we give you a route to drive. And that route helps to determine where the heat is. I think that there are other community science projects like Monarch Watch. So if you have milkweed, you can help tag monarch butterflies. Then when they collect them, if they die down in Mexico, they can better understand migratory pathways, which is important. And, you know, and then just literally being an ambassador. So if you plant stuff, what I would say is this: tell people you did it, put a sign up, you know, become a Monarch Way Station or an NWF habitat. Because if it's seen as kind of having some legitimacy or some greater purpose, people are much more likely to buy into it and support you.
I think we've got time for one more question, if that's okay. Yeah. And this this is, again, I wanted to ask this. Barbara Anderson says, is it possible to just spread seed over an existing lawn as a start, or must the lawn first be removed? Great
question. What I would say is, and I just sent this to somebody, so I will send you a picture of this. What I do is, I'm going to show you real quick. This won't take long. Let me just go ahead and get over to Facebook. I would not just put seeds on a bare lawn. This is the technique that I use. It's not a cheat. It's just knowing that you need good ground to seed contact. So let me get down here and show you real quick. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to share real quick. Okay, can you see that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'm going to go to this video. I'm just going to put this link in here. So I did a talk several years ago for our local Native Plant Society about what I do every year to get a pocket prairie going. And the truth is I don't have to seed it every year. I just have to make small seedings, because if we don't have a horrible drought, I am about to reseed, a lot of the plants are still there. They're still going to come up every single year, like the wine cups. But I don't know if you can see here. You see those little pads of dirt? They're soil, really. It's compost mixed with topsoil. What I do is I create these little patties that are about the size of a paper plate. And I create this kind of matrix. And I mix the seed into the compost and the seed and the mix first. Make it as even as I can. And then I put these out, and then I don't mow that whole area from typically mid-September. I'm going to do it a little bit later because it's been so hot. Mid-September through June of the next year. Right. It's just the edge is mowed very tightly, but the rest of the yard is not mowed. And so that's how I get around the soil to seed contact issue.
Brilliant. Great. I think we're nearly out of time, Jaime. Thank you so much. Monica, I'm going to hand it back to you and mute myself.
Well, you all have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jaime, that was fascinating. Very inspiring. Can y'all see my screen? I think that's a yes.
It's a yes.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
can see your screen.
I'm having trouble navigating. Okay, here we go. Okay. Jaime, I have a ton of good ideas now, thanks to you, that I'm going to implement in my own yard. And moving on, Janet Lane has been active in the month of September. She had 2 Taste of the Gardens. One was at the Salvation Army on Wednesday, September 13th. So we thank Janet and Maggie Saucedo, who is our host for that event. And here's some pictures of the lovely folks out there. And then following that event, there was another Taste of the Garden out at the TDG, Texas Discovery Garden, Master Gardener's Garden, and that was on Thursday, the 21st. Good turnout. People had lots of
Monica?
fun. Yes.
There's another recording going. I don't know. It's like his presentation.
I don't know how to change that.
I'm not seeing that, so I don't know how to fix it.
I'm
I'm
not
not
seeing
hearing-
that either.
I'm not hearing it either.
Yeah, it's not for.
Okay, maybe it's me.
Thank you for checking.
Okay, I turned it off. It was my YouTube.
Thank you. So, yeah, Janet also had an outstanding event out at the Texas Discovery Garden, Master Gardener's Garden. Great turnout. And Janet always spoils us rotten with her goodies over here. So we all had a great time there and learned a lot about what's going on down there. They have the, what I thought was really cool too, in addition to all the native plants and how we can incorporate those into our own yards. We got to see the Shakespeare garden there, the plants that are in the Shakespeare writings. But yeah, the native plant section was just so inspiring. The next Taste of the Gardens will be at RB1 on October 28th from 9 a.m. to 11:30. The project contact will be JD Oliver. There will be a sign up coming up for that, so stay tuned for mark your calendar and sign up. We'd love to see you out there. Okay, moving on to the Making a Difference Awards. The first award goes to Ann O'Hara, Charlie Rollator, and Connie Gutierrez. And this is in recognition for your support out at Anne Frank Elementary. So DCMGA is honored to recognize Anne, Connie, and Charlie, who are a team within a team that works tirelessly at the Anne Frank School Garden. This team is affectionately known as the Three Musketeers. They were nominated by their project leader, Sheila Spotswood, for their dedication to the school garden. Anne is from the class of 2019, Charlie is from the class of 2015, and Connie is from the class of 2019. They come to Anne Frank nearly every week throughout all seasons. They were there through the restrictive COVID times and have been preparing for the last garden tour on a routine basis prior to that. They work closely with student groups when working in the gardens and coordinate participation from parent volunteers as well as student volunteers from the nearby parish Episcopal School. Their extraordinary dedication is truly appreciated by all who visit the garden. So congratulations to Anne, Charlie, and Connie. And you will be receiving your certificates in the mail along with your pin of appreciation. The next award goes to Rick Koch. So I'm flattered to honor Rick as a member of the class of 2019 for his dedication to the Master Gardener program. Rick was on the board in 2021 and 2022 as a director at large, where he established the scholarship committee and served as chair of the budget committee. He remains chairperson of the budget committee, overseeing the project budget requests and helping to write and improve our financial policies. Rick's attention to detail is a true asset. Rick regularly volunteers at the Temple Emmanuel Gardens, where he focuses on composting and irrigation. And in addition to all that, Rick, along with Maureen O'Hanahan, co-lead the help desk. Their innovative approach to contactless support during COVID has enabled the help desk to be a key asset to the organization. So we thank Rick for his dedication. Next, we have the volunteers of the month. So for this month, we have Elaine Webster, Dina Peterson, Barry Bloom, Barbara Leedy, Joe Tiller, Dottie France, Honey Prestige, Charlie Rollator, Jim Miller, and Nancy Black. So thank you all for your hard work and dedication to support our organization. And next, I would like to introduce Janet Smith, who is one of our own master gardeners, and she will be talking about the White Rock Bathhouse as part of the Project Spotlight. So Janet became a certified master gardener in 2005, and she is one of the most prolific members of the Dallas County Master Gardeners Speakers Bureau. She is also a member of the Master Naturalists as of 2011, and she is a member of the Native Plant Society. Janet is certified in rainwater harvesting as well as National Earth Kind practices. Janet is an outspoken advocate for growing native and adaptive drought-tolerant plants that attract bees, butterflies, and birds. Janet serves as the Dallas County Master Gardener Project Leader for the White Rock Lake Demonstration Gardens at the Bathhouse, where the team has focused on native plants that, despite the summer's unrelenting heat and dry spell, have survived and thrived with only minimal supplemental watering. Janet's awards and achievements include Lifetime Achievement Award from President Obama, over 6,000 hours of Master Gardener service, Dallas County Master Gardener Speaker of the Year in 2008, Texas Master Gardener Volunteer of the Year in 2010, over 1,500 hours of Master Naturalist service, and she is certified in the landscape certification program at level 4. And I know that Janet also teaches the landscape certification programs. So a big welcome to Janet, and the ball is yours.
Well, thank you, Monica. And I'm so glad to have this opportunity after we've heard Jaime, because this is just, it's everything that I strive to be. And it's what I'm trying to, what I have worked for years to make the Bathhouse Garden be. And oh, shoot. My slides aren't advancing. This has happened before. I'm going to stop sharing and load it in again to see if that will help. Okay. And it hasn't. Oops, here we go. Okay. And our gardens, we have 2 gardens actually at White Rock Lake. We always talk about the Bathhouse Garden because it's by far the biggest, and it's at the Bathhouse Cultural Center off of North Cliff Drive off Buckner. And many of you have been to the Bathhouse for other purposes, and I hope you've enjoyed the garden while you're there. Our other little small garden that is solely maintained by Judy Mayer is at the Winfrey Point, and it's in the parking lot. It's a historical marker to the CCC, and we maintain a very small garden there. Our garden was started, we planted in July of 2008. After this sculpture had been installed, and the Bathhouse staff wanted the garden there in time for their big summer activity. At that time was the a big festival of independent theaters. So that's why we planted in July. And you can see here how small it is. Here is this morning. Yes, I actually got up and went over there and took a picture. And I'm so thrilled with all this Greg's Blue Mist flower here because it's there just waiting for monarchs. And there was one monarch in the garden that was not on the Blue Mist, but maybe it wasn't giving out its nectar at this time of day. But I have had a personal epiphany with Douglas Tallamy that, again, that Jaime mentioned, and he's mentioned the book Bringing Nature Home, which I read in 2013, and it changed my whole outlook on gardening. And then last year I read Nature's Best Hope, and it's giving me more structure in what to aim for in a garden. And this is what inspires the White Rock Gardens. And here you can see when it was originally planted in 2008, it was native and adapted plants. And at that time, there wasn't any big emphasis on natives, but now there is. And so we have some of the original plants remain and a lot of them were native, but we've also replaced a lot. And here you can see where we put in some yuccas. We've got our Texas sage, Mexican bush sage, which isn't really native, but it's a great pollinator plant. And here's another view. Back here behind this bench, originally were all earth-kind roses. Well, we kind of know what happened to them, so we replaced them with autumn sage, natives. And here we've got some Callilophus in the yellow. And at the over here on the far right, we have some green milkweed, Asclepia viridis. We have planted a lot of milkweed in that garden, but it hasn't taken. But the ones that have planted themselves, we have 2 of them, are fantastic. So we're very proud of them. And we now have 2 beds that face the lakeside. Those were planted in 2021. And this spring, we added a lot of native plants to them. And this is our most successful ever plant. This is frog fruit, which is a great native ground cover. And for us, it's the waterfall plant because look how it's grown down. That wall is about 4.5 feet high. This morning I was looking, this covers now half of this bed, and we did trim it up down so it's not on the walkway anymore. But that started from 2 4-inch pots in April of this year. It'll be interesting to see what happens to it over the winter. It's known to go dormant in the winter, and we're going to be tracking what this plant does. But boy, if you need a ground cover and you don't mind that it's not evergreen and you have a sunny area, this is fantastic. It's a great pollinator plant, and it's also a butterfly host plant. Here we have some of our dedicated gardeners, volunteers, a few years ago. And I don't even remember who all they are, but they were a group that was then mostly interns, and they were working in the rain. And I have to say, our people are tough, our volunteers. And thank goodness we had a watering team all summer who came out and kept our garden alive and allow it to look as wonderful as it does today. I want to make sure you know about this new series of Master Gardener Talks that are combined with art activities. And this will be happening at the Bathhouse. The first one is just next week on Thursday night, October 5th at 7. There will be a talk by our own Jenna Woods about native plants, and then there'll be an art activity. So we're very anxious to see how this goes, and we think it's a great partnership. In November, I will be doing, it's on November 2nd, and I will be talking about the monarchs because it's part of the Day of the Dead celebration. And just because those of you who know me know I am very much into monarchs. I've done a lot of study on monarchs, and I do a lot of speaking on them. And one thing I couldn't leave out of any presentation I give this time of year is that if you are growing tropical milkweed, please cut it back to the ground today. We do not want this milkweed available to the migrators that will be coming through here because it is detrimental to the monarch population. It causes them to come out of their sexual diapause. The monarchs that migrate do not normally mature sexually until next spring, after they've been to Mexico and they're headed back north. This plant can lure them out of that diapause and cause them to become reproducers. The parents will die, and all the offspring will not survive because they will emerge too late to survive the winter. So please, if you have this plant, cut it to the ground. This is only the Mexican or tropical milkweed that is got red and yellow flowers. Other milkweeds are fine. You don't need to cut them back. But I just had to say that. So that concludes my little spotlight, but I want to invite anyone who's interested in native plants, please come out and give me a call. Actually, there's my contact information. You can see about the garden on Facebook. But we'd love to have you join our team and help us get ready for next year's garden tour. Because so many of our volunteers are also going to be hosting the garden tour in their own yards. We need more help for the garden tour next May and the season leading up to it. So thank you, and I hope to see you out and about enjoying nature at this beautiful time of year, or what we hope will be beautiful when the temperature drops. Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Janet. Just a couple quick comments. The Garden Muse event that Janet mentioned is free. It's open to the public on a first come, first served basis, and it will be in the basement of the bathhouse, which is the part, it's kind of a split level. It's the part that faces the lake. And the ground cover that Janet mentioned was frog fruit. All right, now we'd like to switch gears to Ziamata. Do you want to show anything, Ziamata, or are you just going to speak?
If I do, I have to apologize ahead of time just because I might struggle showing the right screen, but let me see if I can do that. Give me one.
Okay. Sure.
Let me just be prepared and do that. Let's see if I can just pick the right one. Okay. The one that I want to show is this one. Can you see like a composition of like a group of people on your slide?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, this is the one I wanted to share with the group today. And first of all, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. And Matthew Orwood. I will give you more information about him in a few minutes. As I share with most of the master gardeners when we had our first meeting, and I'm pretty much sure that it was with the board. Most of the members of the board, when we have our first meeting, something that I share with you was my goal and desire to make sure that we were providing the best support to not only the extension as a whole, as in terms of our teams, but also to master gardeners, and help build that the composition of like experts that can help support the great work that you are doing in our county. As the director of that department, as I said, in my first year, now I had been through the whole like year cycle. I started in August 2022, and now we are in October, and I just happy to share with you some of the progress that we had made in our department to help support the great work that you do, and also to help our communities thrive through education. As you are seeing here, like our team, our department has grown in a significant way. In most of like the agents that we have at the moment have less than 2 years with us in Dallas. Several of them are coming from other states or other countries, but they all meet the criteria and the expertise needed to help our county succeed and our department to have a value for the service that we provide to all of you. I just wanted to mention quickly here that we have all the positions that you see highlighted with a teal, like a light green color. Those are new positions that had been, I'm sorry, those are people that had been in the position less than 2 years. Some of them has been in the position only 3 months. And then the ones that you see in green color, those are the new positions that we had been able to capture and bring with external funding to help support our team, which means that in the last year, we had increased our staff with new positions with no cost for the county or the state government, for a total of 4. And then as you see there, the reason why I wanted to be in your meeting today, it was not only to mention about these new agent positions that we were able to bring to the department, but also, as you know, last year in December, our former A&R or Ag and Natural Resource agent, Ms. Liz Rod, she retired. And as you might be aware, the A&R department or unit, it's compiled also with the horticulture agent position, which means that with my leadership, I just want to make sure that any agent that come to our office understand like the importance of working together, and also help support the different programs that we promote in our county. But specifically with the A&R department or unit, I wanted to make sure that we were able to bring someone with the expertise and the knowledge of the culture of extension, including master gardeners, and also with the vision of like collaboration, which means that the A&R or agriculture and natural resource agent that was going to be part of our department have that responsibility and also desire of working with the existing agents. In this case, Mr. Matthew Orwood was the candidate that met all those all that criteria, and he will be working alongside with my colleague Katerina, your extension agent and horticulture agent, and also working with Jeff. He will be overseeing like other type of programs, but in the department, but he will be also collaborating with your association and your master gardeners as well. Under his role, he will be serving with Sam, the Texas Forest and Wildlife biologist. He will be also providing services as an advisor to the Master Naturalist chapter. But at the same time, he will be, as I said, supporting the work that Master Gardeners does, and also Katerina. And I know Matt is here in the call today, and I would like him to greet the group and introduce himself. My apologies for not having my camera on today. I have like issues with my broadband, and I want to make sure that I was able to join the meeting with no issues. But at the same token, I want to also, before I pass to Matt, I want to make sure that I express how proud I am of like the great work that Master Gardeners, Dallas County Master Gardeners continue doing. And this meeting is a good testament of how I feel and what I see your association, the educational component, and all the great work that you are doing. It really go above of what I had seen in other places, and I cannot be prouder of your work. And it is my honor and my pleasure work alongside with your group. And with that being said, I want to pass it over to Matthew Orwood.
Hello, can everybody hear me okay? Wonderful. So I've been here close to a month now. I started on September 1st. And a little about my background. I have been in extension for a while. I started at Texas A&M as a graduate student working for the rose breeding and genetics program at Texas A&M for a master's degree. And then I worked for almost a year with Tarrant and Denton County Extension as an intern before moving to Florida in the winter of 2010 to begin a position as the horticulture agent in Washington County, Florida. And I held that position from January 2011 until this year, when I decided to move to Texas to be close to family and many family, not just immediate family, but extended family as well. I was born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas, and spent a lot of time throughout the DFW Metroplex. The Texas portion of my family is based out of San Angelo with my mother's relatives, and my grandparents are from that area, and they have a farm over there. So my uncle does now. So I have a long family history in Texas. And so I was in Florida for almost 13 years, and I coordinated a Master Gardener program there, and also served the agricultural community in small farms for fruit and vegetable production. And so here in Dallas, I am serving as the Master Naturalist Advisor, as well as an agent to work with agriculture and natural resources, including small farms with animals and fruit and vegetable production, and natural resources such as forestry, native plants, plant pathology, anything in that regard. And if you look at the agricultural census in Dallas from the USDA, we have, believe it or not, we actually have 1,228 producers or farmers. But what's really interesting about the demographic on that, if you look at the acreage from these farmers, the majority of the farmers have less than 50 acres, okay? And over 36% of the farmers have less than 10 acres. So what that's telling me is we have a lot of people that do small production farms for their home or for a few other people selling at farmers market. And also the largest farming commodity in Dallas County is nursery, greenhouse, floriculture, and sod. Okay, so that includes all of our nurseries, our greenhouses, also includes hydroponic vegetable production, of course. The floriculture, the plants that we grow inside, and that's what you can call floriculture, and sod. So that tells me that agriculture in Dallas is a very diverse, but is heavy on the horticulture. So my role is to work with mostly in horticulture on the agricultural side, as you say, and so I'm going to be doing a lot of collaboration with Katerina. Even though I will have my own section on natural resources and Master Naturalists, I will be doing collaboration with Jeff and Katerina at the Road and Bridge Urban Farm and on projects and classes. So I'm happy to be a resource for everybody in our extension program here in Dallas. Do we have any questions that anyone would like to ask?
Thank you, Matt. The only question I see in the chat is Larry Thompson is asking for your email address, and Larry is the school project coordinator for the Capel School Gardens throughout the entire district.
Okay, I can definitely supply that in the chat there for him. Be happy to.
And many of us are Master Naturalists as well, so welcome.
Thank you. And I'll just let people know that, I am meeting with our statewide program director in November for a formal plan of work. So what that means is, as an experienced extension agent, all of our extension work as agents is guided by a plan of work that we produce every year. Okay, so it has to align with the state initiatives and our position description. So what I do is, when I write a plan of work, I right now I'm trying to learn what's going on and try to meet as many people as possible. And so I get a good picture of what is going on and what the needs of Dallas County Extension are for my position. And then I will develop a plan of work And from that plan of work, I will work for 2024. And then in 2024, I'll develop the 2025 plan of work. They change every year as my program evolves. And what I mean by program is overall an extension program is the body of work that I provide to the citizens of Dallas County and the state of Texas. And then you have individual programs where you have a series of classes, like the Master Gardeners are hosting the bathhouse gardening class that fits into your educational gardening program. So, but each agent in the office has has what you call an overall program. And so we're going to be working with Katerina and Xiomara to see, and Jeff, and we'll see how the Master Gardeners fit into that program. And right now it's very fluid. So I don't have much defined information for you at this time, but I know that I'll be happy to be collaborating with y'all throughout this time of my time here in Dallas.
Thank you, Matt.
Mhm.
Looking forward to working with you.
Yes, definitely.
Any questions for Matt? I think we're good. All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen again. Can you all see this? Is that a yes?
So yes.
Thank you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about mission drift. And looking at the website and our bylaws, in the About Us section of the website, it says that Dallas County Master Gardeners will provide research-based horticulture education and information to a diverse group of learners of all ages. We teach in research, education, and demonstration gardens, community service gardens, and school gardens. Then in the bylaws, it states the association shall be a nonprofit, non-discriminatory, educational, and charitable association affiliated with the Texas A&M AgriLife Service. In addition to that, the bylaws also state that the specific objectives and purposes of the association shall be to increase the gardening knowledge of its members and the public, utilizing Extension's research-based best management practices. We will support and assist Extension by providing the citizens of Dallas County with information on good gardening practices consistent with Extension horticulture recommendations, and we will assist Master Gardeners and interns in training and fulfilling their their volunteer commitment as required by Extension horticulture. So, what does this mean? We have drifted from our mission of education and public knowledge sharing, and we would like to gradually steer the ship back in that direction. So we've been asked by Katerina to do this and focus our activities on education. So the first question I'm getting asked by many of you, and there's been several rumors, and I wanted to nip some of this in the bud. Will I be required to give presentations to the public? Are we asking that all members of the association become members of Cookie's Speakers Bureau? And the answer is no, although, anyone who would like to go out and give talks to the public is more than welcome to, but knowledge sharing takes on many more forms, and we encourage you to be creative on how we can enhance education to the public. And the other question I'm getting asked is, will my project be eliminated if it doesn't focus on knowledge sharing at the present? And there are no current plans to eliminate any projects. We're just asking you to be creative on bringing your knowledge out to the public. So where do we go from here? All of you will receive a link to a 60-minute YouTube video that was put together by Skip Richter. And he is out of the Harris County, Houston area. He's their county extension agent. This link will talk about the mission drift, and we encourage you to view it. VMS credit will be given for those who watch the video. And we will organize a meeting shortly after this to be held with all of the project leaders. This is the school projects as well. And we'd like to get your input and hear your views. And then following that, we will be holding a series of roundtables with the entire membership. And those will be scheduled in January and mid-February, the first half of February. And at those roundtables, we would like to discuss how we can be creative and getting our horticulture knowledge out to the public. So I didn't want anyone to panic. No one's project is going away. We just want you to put your thinking caps on and share some ideas on how we can be creative with our knowledge sharing. And if speaking in front of an audience is not your thing, I will admit I'm not entirely comfortable doing it either. There are plenty of other ways that knowledge sharing can take place. Okay, there's also been some talk about the DCMGA dues, and I will apologize up front that we did not follow the bylaws when we sent out the dues increase, and we should have gotten the approval of the membership before that was before the amount was agreed upon. So we understand that there are some concerns about the increase in the DCMGA dues. We will present that at the October business meeting, and we will give you the details as much as we have on how the dues came about and why that amount was set. So that October business meeting is still over a month out from when the dues late payment kicks in. I'm jumping ahead here, but the late payment kicks in and just on December 1st. Dues paid before that are currently $30, but we will vote on that at the October meeting, so that is subject to change. If anyone feels that that is not doable, please reach out to Tig and he can help you. If anyone is under financial stress, please talk to Tig. Let's see, and the board will provide detailed information. Yeah, I've already mentioned this at the October membership meeting, and it will be put to a vote. If the membership does not approve the $30 and we end up going with something lower than that, anyone who has already paid their $30 is eligible for a refund. So please reach out to us and we will refund your money, the difference in the dues. So stay tuned for October's meeting for more information. Next, I wanted to put in a plug for the slow gardening event that's happening on October 14th. And there's a sign-up link to apply for that. It includes lunch and the cost is $20. Hope to see you all there. I have not heard Felder Rushing speak before, but I hear he's very good, and Callie Works Leary is always great too. So looking forward to that.
Monica, sorry, Katerina had something she wanted to feed back to us as well.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, I should
I stop sharing?
Yeah, is that okay, Katerina?
Do you want me to go ahead and go now?
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. Sorry, you should have gone earlier. It's my mistake.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. I am in Houston at the conference of the American Community Garden Association. Great group of people. I'm actually in Alif, where Jaime just mentioned that Pocket Prairie project. So I'll have to look for it and try to sit down with Jaime and have some lunch and reminisce of our old times together. So let me share my screen. I'm going to try to be brief because I am about to go into the next set of workshops. Hopefully my screen is being shared at this point. Yes, okay. So just as Matt mentioned a few minutes ago, we have our program plans. I've already outlined mine for the year, and so I kind of wanted to share this with you very briefly so that you are all aware of what I am doing in the fall of 2023. Of course, I will be as always overseeing our Master Gardener program, the different elements that entail the management, the requirements, the guidelines, the MOUs, etc. Thank you, Monica and the board for helping me out with this mission drift initiative, and it's going to be a gradual effort to get back to where we once were, and we can do a lot, so much. And like a couple of you have pointed out in the chats, so Jaime's talk was very inspirational. He always has inspired me, and he definitely did a fantastic job today. But other than, let me see, go ahead and share this from the get-go here. Other than the management of the Master Gardener program, we are moving ahead with my 2 in-depth teaching programs right now for the Master Gardener interim program that we start in the spring of 2024. It will start in February next year. We are going through the application and interview portion of that. I believe that last I got an email, we had 72 applicants. So our interviewing committee is going to be very busy for a week or so in late October. The second in-depth teaching program that I created last year, we have renamed it. You may remember it was known as the Citizen Gardening Training series, and we have renamed it. It is now called Edible Gardening for All. We have been trying different iterations to see how best to serve the community. And now in the fall, we are going to be offering it in a hybrid format. So Jeff Raska and I did some recordings of the classes. They will be made available to those who register. And then we will have work days when people will come out and have learning opportunities, but also help those community gardens or small farms that are hosting us. So we are hoping that to serve more people by providing this flexibility through this hybrid format. As of last check, we had 73 people registered for this class, and we have 2 more weeks of registration to go. You may or may not know, but A&M always encourages to offer fee-based courses. And thanks to Sherry Walker and the winemaking team out there at Urban Farm, we have managed to pull off the 2nd annual winemaking, the Art and Science of Making Wine, which starts tomorrow. Wait, tomorrow's Friday. Starts Saturday at 2 o'clock is the introductory class. And then from there, it will be 4 more Saturdays. And those that participate will start, with the grapes, touring the vineyard at the Urban Farm. And then they take them all the way to the end where they actually put the cork into the bottle. So everybody had fun last year. I believe that your own Sue Smith was part of that. And so you can ask her, Sue, have you had your wine yet?
It was great. Really good.
Good to hear.
It's good.
Okay, so it wasn't vinegar.
No, not at all.
All righty. As far as outreach, Jeff Raska is going to continue with that. And then as he does that, he is introducing Matt to a lot of the different nurseries and other organizations across town with which he has had contact over the years, and so that we can start integrating Matt into those talks. And that will allow me to start kind of steering my efforts towards nurseries in West and South Dallas, and seeing if I can start to develop some partnerships with nurseries that exist in those areas, which we have not really had a partnership with in the past. So I'm looking forward to doing that in the fall. As far as interdepartmental, as you all know, and Xiomara just showed us all of the different new agents that are joining us. And so that means a lot more interactions and a lot more opportunities. For the fall, I will be offering an entomology training. This will be sort of a follow-up for the entomology camp. And the gist there is that we are trying to create a new group of young entomologists in Dallas County, and we talk to them about the careers that are possible for them, and we're trying to get them involved in the entomology contest that happens at the district level and also at the state level. And we believe that we can take these young individuals a long way, because entomology really doesn't require a whole lot of tools, and those tools that they may need, we may be able to provide them as we get more grants and we start to buy more and more tools and just things like sweep nets, for example. The second thing that I'm involved in is we're going through a monthly planning with all of the agricultural agents across the state, because next year, the National Association of Agricultural County Agents are going to have their national conference here in Dallas. It's a big deal. And so everyone is doing what they can as far as fundraising and networking to make sure that the conference is a huge success. So we are working on that on a monthly basis. You may hear about that as we get closer to July next year. I predict we will need volunteers. We always do. So you may hear more about that as the date gets closer. I'm also starting to work more with the IPM specialists at the Dallas Center. And so they have asked us agents to join them this fall for one of the seminars that they're offering for professionals. So Brad Voss from Collin County and myself will be doing one of the presentations. And I look forward to that. Since my background is entomology, it'll be very nice to participate in that particular seminar. And then finally, the professional development and collaborations. As I just mentioned, I'm here in Houston this is my first time assisting a conference for the American Community Gardening Association. And so far as I can tell, it is going to be extremely useful for what we are trying to do in Dallas. Houston is quite ahead of us, but I am excited about the potential collaborations and brainstorming that can occur with the folks down here in Houston that have 20 years of experience putting things together. So this morning when of Urban Harvest was talking, I could just envision the same type of success for Dallas. I was very excited. So we just started. We have 3 days of this conference, including some tours on Saturday. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And then North Texas School Garden Network, that was also very nice to meet all of the folks that are involved in that initiative last Friday. And I'm looking forward to helping the school managers with the different projects, and also just trying to figure out how to help any other schools that may be interested in having a school garden on their grounds. So that's my program plan for the fall. In the spring, I'll come to you again, maybe sometime in January, to kind of give you a quick view of what I will be doing. And then I only have 2 slides. This is a slide. It's actually a video. I'm going to show you some snippets of the entomology camp. Thank you to the association for the donation of $500. Your money was well spent in supplies for the 30-some kids that we had participating in this. And I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank the master gardeners that volunteered with us. So I would like to give a shout out to Stephanie Smith, Christine Lixton Walters, Catherine McCord, Charlie Rollator, Sandy Means Bannon, Fern Brown, Iman Jones, Dina Peterson, and Tamara Luce, as well as Starla Willis, who was the one that really took all the pictures and put this fantastic video together. I also was very encouraged that we also had a participation of the master naturalist. So John Pauly, Sam Kieschnick, and Nancy Pineda, they were out there helping us identify the insects. And then we also had 4-H, seven teenagers that were volunteers. And so it was even though we kind of put it together at the last minute, I have to say that I think it was a success, being that it was just the first time we had done this. So let me see, I'm going to, again, just get it started and then jump around so you can get a little bit of a sense of what it was about. just going to move it a little bit to the center here so that we can let me just slide it a little bit more. We had it at the Dallas Center.
I know what an obstacle looks like. I know what's blocking my road. I know why the river stopped running. And I know when it may be time to go. I see the glow of the exit sign.
All right, let me do 3 more. Let me see if I can catch any of the master gardeners. I think we just saw Stephanie there.
So good luck with where you're going, 'cause I know that you'll get there someday.
Trying to get real close so we can take it there. Dance real slow.
Only water flows. Only moonlight glows. Watch your favor grow. Take those seeds and watch it go. Multiply and be fruitful. Too fast, baby, too stiff. Hold on, baby, need help. Think you might be my remedy. Slow me down like a centipede. Too fast, baby, too stiff.
All right, last one. Let's see.
Only moonlight glows. Watch your favor grow. Take those seeds and watch it go. Multiply and be fruitful. Too fast, baby, too stiff. Hold on, baby, need help. Think you might be my remedy. Slow me down like a centipede. Too fast, baby, too stiff. Hold on, baby, need help. Think you might be my remedy. Slow me down like centipede.
All right, so I think that gives you a good idea of what it was like. It was 3 days at the end of July, and even though it was hot, we managed to pull it off. So again, thank you to those volunteers that participated. I wanted to also just give a quick shout out to Gina Woods and Janet Smith for putting together this series that's coming up at the Bathhouse, as well as to Denise Strubner for putting together the talk on October 14th. Hopefully I'll be able to attend, so I'll probably see a lot of you there. And let me see, was there anybody else that I needed to say thank you to? I think just to all of you, thank you for attending, and I am going to stop sharing now. There we go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katerina. The camp looked like a lot of fun.
It was.
All right, I'm going to share again. So I wanted to put a shout out for the next meeting. If you all want to have any, or if you all would like to share any plants that you have at home, or seeds, books, gardening tools, anything horticulture related that would be happier at a new home, please bring it to the meeting. We would greatly appreciate that. The next meeting will be our annual business meeting, and this will be held October 26th in the Jubilee Hall at the Preston Hollow Presbyterian Church. Please use Sign Up Genius to register for the meeting so that we know what your lunch preference is. And that lunch is provided as part of your membership dues. All right, on to the raffle.
Could I ask a question before
Sure.
we get to that? Is this the milkweed that is causing the problems?
Do you want to share your screen?
I thought I did.
Let me stop sharing mine. Maybe that'll help.
It's right there.
Yes, that's the one.
That's the one. Well, I think I bought my first plant a number of years ago from the sale on at Raincatchers, and now I have hundreds of them. So I'm going to go out this afternoon and pull all of these up.
Thank you. We appreciate that, and so
Yeah,
do the monsters.
So what milkweed should we be planting?
The native milkweeds.
Native milkweeds.
But, you know, this is a great nectar plant, and sometimes it's the only milkweed growing in the spring when the monarchs come through. So it has its uses. But as of the fall migration, we do not want it available to the monarchs because it is detriment to their overall population.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the visual on it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for that. And we'll all go out and check our milkweeds now. I just want to make a quick correction. The monthly meeting next month is AM, not PM. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, moving on to the plant raffle. Sue or Joellen, are one of you going to pull names?
Yes, we've done it on registered people ahead of time, and I will be emailing people who've been successful in the next few hours to let them know and how to go about getting their plants as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Sue.
Thanks.
Okay, Janet, quick question. Pull out the milkweed or cut it back? The tropical milkweed.
Cut it back.
Cut it back. Every year at this time.
To the ground, and if it starts growing again and blooming, cut it back again. You know, who knows how long summer is going to last here.
Yeah. Will it bloom in the spring if you cut it back?
Yes, maybe. I mean, it's a tropical plant. It's a zone 9 plant. It may come back on its own stem, or it may have thrown seeds.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And that does it for this month's meeting. Thank you all for your support. Next month, we'll be providing a lot more about the dues. So please attend, and we look forward to seeing you. Have a great day, great weekend, great month. Thanks for helping out.
Thanks, Monica. Thanks, everyone.